All right, so CNN has learned that the president isn't getting full-throated support from members of his own party, even when asked about whether or not they will back Trump in a re-election bid. Roughly 24 Republican senators and members of Congress told CNN they're not ready to back their party's standard bearer. This is unusual. Let's discuss that and more with Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, who was at a very important briefing about what the state of the strategy and plan in Syria is for the United States. And Senator, first, one step sideways, an invitation to you, sir. Please come up and attack the whiteboard, and we have to talk deficit, how it will be controlled, because we're looking at numbers who you as a lawmaker and a businessman have never even dreamed might be facing the United States of America. We got to talk about that. But not today. The invitation stands. Come on up and let's go through the numbers. I got an okay on that?
Absolutely. I've got all kinds of charts and graphs to pretty well simplify this because it's a dire situation, but it's pretty simple to describe.
Good. And I never thought I'd see this with the GOP in power, but that's where we are and we got to talk about it. However, I got 3 will you back questions. The first one is, will you back the President of the United States, Donald Trump, the standard bearer of your party, in his re-election bid?
Chris, you know it's way too early to be talking about the 20.
Yes,
Yes, it is, Chris.
It isn't. Not to say that you support the guy who's president who's the head of your party.
It could be a completely different world by 2020. We have a 2018 election first. So, listen, I understand the kind of gotcha question you're engaging here, but it's just way too early to even be talking about it.
I am offended that you would see it as a gotcha question, but I'll put my personal feelings aside.
It is, that's fine.
To say that you back the head of your party who's currently president, you don't think that's unusual, that we'll see where we are?
What I'm doing is I'm trying to do everything I can, as I do with President Obama, to help President Trump keep this nation more prosperous, safer, and more secure. I do not envy any president the task. It's an enormous challenge. We have enormous challenges facing this nation. So I'm going to keep focused on the problems at hand, like the debt and deficit, like the situation in North Korea and Syria, our trade negotiations, everything else. I try and provide as wise a counsel as possible, and I try and support the president on the areas of agreement.
I hear you on it. I get the pragmatism. You get an amen on that. You guys should be looking for common ground and taking action thereon. There's not enough of it. The commodity is division, and it's toxic. However, that said, would you at least acknowledge that it is unusual in our partisan political culture to hear members of a party say that they are not behind a member of their party who is president?
Because I think it's unusual that members of the media would be talking about the 2020 election in 2018.
Only because it's surprising to have heard this response.
I think that's what's unusual about this.
All right, look, I'm not going to chase you because I got other things to talk about.
Okay,
but we both know.
Let's talk about the problems facing this nation.
Well, that's one of the problems, because if the party isn't behind the president, you guys are going to have your own divisions to deal with. But let me ask you something.
Listen, we've been foursquare behind his agenda, trying to repeal and replace Obamacare, certainly from a standpoint of reducing the regulatory burden, stop adding to it.
So then why won't you back him for his re-election?
Again, we're supporting his agenda.
So why don't you support him for re-election?
Well, let's move on.
I think you're in a box on this one, Senator, but the people have heard what you're saying on it. They'll get the state of play. You join big names: Cornyn, Lamar Alexander, Thune, Sanford, Flake, Rob Portman, all who say it's too soon to say whether they back the president of their own party. Will you back any bill that comes up? I know I have to be careful about it because McConnell says he won't put a bill like this on the floor. But as you know, Grassley is working with others on both sides of the aisle to come up with a bill to protect Mueller, to protect the special counsel. Would you back such a bill?
First of all, I'm not all that nuts about special counsels. I think I made my point pretty clear on that. I'd rather have the Justice Department handle these things. From a standpoint of these political prosecutions, I think it's far better to have Congress do the investigation so the public understands exactly what's happening. The problem with criminal investigations is oftentimes the public never finds out what happened inside government. So I would question the constitutionality of that type of law, but I'll cross that bridge when it actually comes to Senate floor, if it does.
But you've also said that getting rid of Mueller, if the president were to do that, that would be a mistake.
I don't see what it would accomplish. The investigation is going to continue, but what I would like to see is the investigation come to a conclusion. This is very damaging for America to have this kind of cloud hanging over any administration. We have enormous challenges. You talked about the debt and deficit. We need to move on with those things rather than be concentrating on this.
But interference by an inimical foreign power is also a problem that you have to deal with.
It's a serious issue. Yeah. It needs to be investigated. We should have concluded this, I think, months ago.
Why? Why do you think that?
Because, again, so far there's been no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. There has been evidence of collusion between the Clinton campaign and Russia, but we know that right
has
now.
been between the Russian government and Democrats?
Well, how about the Steele dossier?
Was Steele working for the Russian government?
Putting that aside, listen, my focus has really been the Clinton email scandal and the FBI's investigation, if you call it that, under that, and we're really looking forward to see the Office of Inspector General's report on the FBI investigation of that scandal, as well as the Clinton Foundation scandal. I thought Michael Horowitz did an excellent job in his report on Andrew McCabe.
I read the excerpts of the report. I get that that's something to pursue. I don't know why you see it as a set-off against the fact that a foreign inimical government interfered with our election, and you want to talk about a separate investigation that seems to have some kind of political motivation. Listen, I get it. You can do that, but why is it an offset from the Russia investigation?
I'm not saying it is an offset. You
mentioned it when I was talking to you about the Russia investigation.
Well, again, what I'm saying is we need to get these investigations behind us so we can concentrate on the serious issues facing this nation. All of these issues behind us.
But we don't know what and how Russia did it to interfere in the election and their ongoing efforts and what you will do to stop it. You don't know who worked with them, but you're in a rush to move on. Why?
We've got a pretty good idea. I think we have a very good idea that they did not affect the outcome of the election. That it's very difficult to do so. I've had secure briefings on these things. Listen, I'm concerned about this, but I also like the fact that states control elections. The election machines are not connected to the internet. It's very difficult to change the results of the election. And my biggest concern would be violating the voter files, but I have concern about people not updating voter files as well. So we have so many different controls, so many different things that can indicate whether or not we've had any kind of true meddling in the election that would affect the outcome. So from my standpoint, in terms of the problems facing this nation, that's relatively low on the list of priorities.
All right. Good to have you on the record about that. Mike Pompeo for Secretary of State. You in or out?
Oh, I think he's a person of intelligence, integrity. He's got great experience now under as director of the CIA. He should be confirmed easily.
All right. Good to have you on the record about that. Now, Syria. You went to the briefing. Can you explain the U.S. strategy in Syria?
Well, I can explain, first of all, the strategy and the strike. I think Secretary Mattis
was
very clear. I believe so, yeah. I think President, just under his Article 2 constitutional powers.
What was he doing to protect the security of the United States with this attack?
Well, because the normative use of chemical weapons threatens the entire world, including the United States. I'm really glad that France and Britain joined in that to make that very clear statement. We simply can't allow ongoing use of chemical weapons to become a normative occurrence.
If you were going to extend that rationale, you would have taken action against Russia for what they're believed to have done to that former spy and his kid.
Well, I think action was taken. We've expelled
not military action. Thank God.
Well, you know, Russia has 7,000 nuclear weapons and the capability to deliver them, which is why I think it's important, if at all possible, if we start improving relations with Russia.
So you only use military action when somebody can't hit you back? Is that the rule?
I think you have to always weigh exactly what could be the repercussions of using any military action. Absolutely, Chris.
Look, the legal standard of Article 2, and look, I know people don't like having this conversation. It's not in the headlines. It's not sexy. Congress doesn't want to own its responsibility because you don't want to have this kind of onus on you in authorizing military action. But Article 2 is pretty clear. These people are about to attack us. We have to do something right now. I'm president. I'm going to do it. That's what it covers. That's not this. He didn't even articulate a case for it being that.
I would say the Constitution is not all that clear. It certainly gives Congress the responsibility and duty to declare war, but it invests in the president, the commander-in-chief, as well as foreign policy, and keep this nation safe.
The War Powers Act and the AUMF govern these kinds of situations. They don't seem to cover what happened in Syria. Here's why I'm asking you. I'm not saying going after Assad was wrong.
The War Powers Act has never been agreed to by any president. It was not signed. The veto was overridden.
That's why you have checks and balances. That's my point.
Well, I know, and presidents, by and large, comply with it because
what
governs action is American public opinion, and that's really what constrains any president,
regardless
of the legality.
That's where you come in. That's why Mattis reportedly said we need to have military and popular sentiment, so we have to go to Congress. Will you back the new AUMF? That Kaine and Corker and others are trying to come up with?
Listen, I think the chairman, Tim Kaine and Jeff Flake did a really good job trying to craft an AUMF. I've been generally supportive of it. I have some concerns. We were just in a meeting, the Foreign Relations Committee yesterday. There's all kinds of concerns. I'm not sure it can pass the committee, quite honestly.
Well, we'll see, because you guys have a role in this, and it's a role that's been rolled over. So we're going to be following this.
Oh, I know.
Senator, the invitation stands. Please come up here and help us understand how we get out of these deficits that are looming, and you are always welcome on this show to address the American
I'm
people.
already thinking about the charts I'm going to be bringing up, Chris. Happy to do it.
You work the board like no other senator I've ever seen. Thank you, sir, for being on the show.
Have a great day.